Well, how about that, eh? Nothing like a bit of yabby time. Now, there was something else I was going to talk about. Rumi. That's right. Rumi. There was something in here. I think it was only introduction. Somewhere in the introduction. I found it. Ali and the lion have been closely connected with the Sufis and with esoteric secrets which can't be told. Ali was instructed in some truths by Muhammad and was afterwards asked by another close friend of the Prophet, who was not initiated into those matters, what he had been told. Quote, "If I were to tell you, you would want to cut off my head." Unquote. Sufferers of cognitive dissonance do not want to know the truth, and they will want to cut off your head should you reveal. Or they just think you're a lunatic and ignore you, which is good. That's fine by me. I do love a little bit of Rumi. This is a beautiful, beautiful little book. Even still in the introduction, there's another bit. The lion. Much of Rumi's poetry circles about the mystery of surrender. One aspect of that is a forcefulness. It might be called discipline, or clarity, or integrity. Certain images occur in this area of soul growth. When Rumi talks about fasting, he often brings in the image of a lion. A beautiful meal looks delicious. Then one night passes and the food passes through you, becoming repellent filth. Eat love food. Suckle the toes of a lion. Like this. The power of the appetite is in the lion. The power to control them or indulge them. Lion energy doesn't discriminate between the two. The lion is also associated with the sun. The lion wants more light. Sometimes that means fasting, sometimes feasting. The spirit lion is the dawn presence, the one who calls out, announcing the next. D.H. Lawrence describes a beast that he identifies with Saint Mark as the lion of the spirit. The proud lion stalks abroad alone and roars to announce himself to the wolves. This is not a passive animal. This is not the part of the self that loves bewilderment and melting songs and drunken merging. This is the energy of ornery independence. The lion has dignity. His family group is called a pride. When Buddha returned to his students after the 49-day Bodhi tree fast, he said, "Have I ever spoken to you like this? This is the roar of the lion." Nietzsche's Zarathustra describes the 3 stages of psychic metamorphosis in terms of a camel, a lion, and a child. The camel represents the devotee stage, when one carries burdens and kneels to a teacher and a teaching. The lion brings in that which does not imitate. And this is a quote of Nietzsche from Thus Spoke Zarathustra. In the loneliest desert, the second metamorphosis occurs. The spirit here becomes a lion. It wants to capture freedom and be lord in its own desert. It seeks here its ultimate lord. It will be an enemy to him and to its ultimate god. It will struggle for victory with the great dragon. What is the great dragon which the spirit no longer wants to call Lord and God? The great dragon is called Thou Shalt. But the spirit of the lion says, I will. The lion says no to any dutiful carrying on or comfortable inertias. The spirit lion leads out of marginal, dependent existence into the danger and blankness of the desert. That's the lion's freedom. I associate the lion with Moses and Sophocles, with Abdul-Jabbar Nifari, Padmasambhava. Excuse me, I can't even pronounce that one. Padmasambhava. And Francis of Assisi, with King Lear, Goethe, Blake and Keats, with D.H. Lawrence and Robinson Jeffers, with Mark Twain and Gary Snyder, and with my friend Ed Hicks in Troy, Alabama, and my son Benjamin. This is the introduction, obviously. I feel the lion waking in me when I clear the decks, when I say no, and wait for some vastness to enter. But there are gentle and great-hearted qualities to this stage of psychic evolution too. See why the prophets are human. The lion leads to the child by expanding the horizon. In alchemy, the lion is an intermediate transformational symbol. The green lion of raw matter gives birth to the sun by disgorging it with much blood. Shams, Rumi's teacher, is associated throughout the poetry with the spiritual sun and with the lion. I don't mean to imply that there's an occult network of meanings that should be fussed over and mapped. Rumi uses the image of the lion in many different ways. In one poem it represents time itself, see the prophet's vision. But in most instances the lion is the point of necessity that comes at a certain moment, the fierce intensity that destroys ego imprisonment and opens one out into light and another field of being. Nietzsche's sequence is important. One doesn't move directly from camel to child, from devotee to new consciousness. Lion energy is the bridge. There are political aspects to the lion too. He roars. He speaks strong language and wants, above all else, for the truth to come out and be seen. When the lion enters, the revolution begins. Lion energy and warrior energy are close. In Sufi stories, sometimes a great eccentric teacher will be riding a lion. See Sheikh Karakwani and his wretched wife in this longing. Shams was associated with this animal, and he was completely his own man. Whenever students would begin to gather around him in a dependent relationship, he would excuse himself and vanish. He was called Parinda, the winged one. Lions often have mythic wings. They look right with wings. They need them to flee the company of hypocrites and imitators. Lions carry no baggage. Each lion is his own path, and he wants everyone to take total responsibility for him or herself. The lion in a human being is almost without cowardice, and he doesn't long for or expect protection. The lion is a knight out in the wilderness by himself. He has a collectedness in him that commands, even though he may be alone against an entire town. Of Ali it was said, "You are alone, and yet you are the whole community, 1 in 100,000." Monumental pause. In Islam, Ali is spoken of as God's lion. His is the politics and religion of dignity, even more than love. You may have heard the famous story of Ali in battle. The calligraphy on the front of this book represents him. Ali and the lion have been closely connected with the Sufis and with esoteric esoteric secrets which can't be told. Ali was instructed in some truths by Muhammad, and afterwards asked by another close friend of the Prophet, who was not initiated into those matters, what he had been told. "If I were to tell you, you would want to cut off my head." To the spirit lion, devotion and ecstatic fullness are not enough. He wants the hard, clean threshing floor of emptiness where, in Nietzsche's terms, the child can create a fresh world. Or maybe Nietzsche is too categorical, and the stages of human development are more organic, each being brought along inside the other, the camel in the lion, and both within the child. If the lion's solitude doesn't have a core of devotion, it's hollow. If the lion hasn't bowed all the way down to a teacher, he turns mean. If the child hasn't the various strengths of the patient camel and the fearless lion, his joy is vague and uncreative. These are my speculations on Nietzsche's speculations. But the chief lion attribute is his authority. It is an authority over himself, and it is also an authority over that comes from living close to a deep sense of self that he will not betray. I remember seeing in the old Atlanta Zoo a lion who stood in the middle of his cage all afternoon and moaned out a huge, hollow protest. It was so powerful and clear that no one could bear to stay in that part of the building. Lions cannot live in cages or be told what to do. Being a lion is not fitting in. He does not refer to group behaviour, only to that which he generates and validates from within. But lioness, whether trapped by civilization or wild, and however much it may be needed, is not Rumi's point. Lion strength weakens to nothing. Human beings, be they camel or lion or child or gazelle or donkey, are here to remember that they're in borrowed clothes. All this magical body finery is on loan, like stained glass, while it's letting sunlight through. The crime is that they put on borrowed robes and pretended that they were theirs. The earth-coloured glass makes everything seem diverse, but that glass eventually shatters. Your lamp was lit from another lamp. All God wants is your gratitude for that. Lend is the divine command. Make God alone from your existence. The gazelle. I hear the lion's roar in Rumi, but he certainly didn't stop with that thunderous no to what blocks light, to easy answers and the need to belong. He moved on out into an enormous open, into the creative yes of the child and beyond. That joy is felt under all the worlds, but in this volume I have wanted to emphasize the lion aspect, probably because I need more of that in my own life. I find as I explore the world of Rumi's work that I keep discovering those qualities with which I need attunement. By Coleman Barks. And I'm going to start right away into the gazelle. A hunter captures a gazelle and puts it in the stable with the cows and donkeys. The gazelle runs about wild with fear and confusion. Every night the man pours out chopped up straw for the barn animals. They love it, but the gazelle shies quickly from side to side in the big stall, trying to get away from the smoky dust of the straw and from the animals milling to eat it. Whoever has been left for a time with those who are different will know how forsaken this gazelle feels. Solomon loved the company of the hoopoe. Unless she has a valid excuse to be absent, I will punish her for not being here with the worst punishment there is. And what might that be? What this gazelle is going through, to be confined somewhere apart from your own kind. The soul is that way in the body, a royal falcon put in with the crows. It sits here and endures what it must, like a great saint, like an Abu Bakr in the city of Sabzawar. Once the great king Muhammad Khwarizm besieged Sabzawar, they gave up easily. Whatever you require as tribute we will give. Bring me a holy person, someone who lives united with God. I will harvest your inhabitants like corn. They brought sacks of gold. They knew that no one in Sabzawar lived in that state. Do you think I am a child that I should be fascinated with coins? For 3 days and nights they called through the town looking for an Abu Bakr. Finally, they saw a traveller lying in a ruined corner of a wall, sick and exhausted. Immediately they recognized a true person. Get up, the king wants to see you. You can save our lives. I'm not supposed to be here. If I could walk, I would have already arrived in the city where my friends are. They lifted him above their heads on a board like corpses are carried on and bore him to the king. Sabzawar is this world where a true person wastes away, apparently worthless. Yet all the king wants from Sabzawar is such a one. Nothing else will do. Muhammad says, God does not look at outward forms, but at the love within your love. The Qab, the inner heart, that space in which 700 universes are just a lost speck. We're looking for that in the small, seedy town of Sabzawar, and sometimes we find it. One who has that love is a six-sided mirror through which God can look at us. Yeah. The gifts come through such a one. His palm opens without conditions. That union cannot be said. I leave this subject with you. Wealthy people bring money. God says, bring devotion to one whose loving mixes with mine. That love is what God wants. That love is a mother and a father to us, and the origin of every creature. You might say, Lord, I have brought this heart love. Kutu, an ordinary town in Tafan, is full of this kind of love. Instead, bring the Qab of the Kutub, the soul of of Adam. God waits for that. One may wander days in Sabzawar and not see such a being. The noblest native in Sabzawar might come and God would say, why do you offer this rotting corpse? Bring the inner love of one who can save Sabzawar. Just the sight of them together, a native of Sabzawar and a true human being who might be travelling through, is painful. Yet sometimes they talk. A townsperson may behave kindly toward a Qab person, but it's almost always hypocrisy. He nods and says yes. He acts sincere, but is really tricky and looking for an advantage. If the saint accepts his hypocrisy, he's saved, and that often happens. The holy ones love to buy damaged goods and turn lying into truth. Just going to let that sink in for a minute. And I will repeat it. If the saint accepts his hypocrisy, he's saved, and that often happens. The holy ones love to buy damaged goods and turn lying into truth. If someone's trickery seems charming to you, remember he is only your saint, not a real one. Someone who is like you will often sound prophetic. Renounce sensuality so you can sharpen your spiritual sense. Your olfactory nerve has been deadened. You cannot catch the fragrance of sweet musk or ambergris. It's as though they no longer exist for you. All this time our gazelle has been running back and forth in the stable. For many days this precious animal wriggles like a fish thrown up on dry ground, like dung and rare incense closed side by side in a box. One donkey says sarcastically, "This guy is wild, he must be somebody special." Another, "With all his ebb and flow, he must be making a pearl." probably a cheap one. Another, why can't he eat what we eat? Another donkey gets indigestion and offers the gazelle his fodder with a formal invitation. No, thank you, I am unwell too. The donkey is offended. Don't be so aloof. Are you afraid of what people will say if you're seen eating with me? The gazelle doesn't answer, but he thinks. Your food is for you. It revives your strength, but I have known a pasture by a creek where hyacinths and anemones and sweet basil grow. My food is there. Some destiny put me here, but I can't forget the other. If my body gets old and sick, still my spirit can stay new. The donkey seems to know what the gazelle is thinking. Yes, anyone can brag in a strange country. Who's to know? The gazelle. This musk gland identifies me, but no one here has a nose tuned to that scent. Donkeys like to smell donkey urine on the road, and that's about all. Muhammad says, true surrender is odd in this world. Even Islamic relatives avoid a perfect saint. He or she may look human, but there's a lion nature inside. If you are a cow and you try to be friends with such a one, you'll be torn to pieces instantly. In fact, you'll become a lion. If you're happy being a cow, stay away. Potiphar, the king of Egypt, in a dream once saw with his spiritual eye 7 well-nourished cows and 7 lean cows that came and ate the fat cows. Lean cows are lions inside. Like a true person who can detach you completely from the dregs of your cow nature and make you so pure and spacious that your foot touches Orion's belt. How long will I keep talking like a crow? Hussam, why did you kill your rooster? Because I began to hear the friend's voice inside me. A rooster loves lust, and lust again, an instant satisfaction of lust, that poisonous cheap wine. If it weren't necessary for procreation, Adam would have castrated himself in shame over his own lechery. Satan comes to God and says, I need some powerful bait. God gives him gold and silver and herds of beautiful horses. Bravo, says Satan, but his lip drops and he screws up his lemon face. God throws in the other precious metals and the gemstones. Oh, thank you, and might there be anything else around here that I could use? God gives the marbled meats and the tasty sherbets and the silk robes. But I need something that will hold and keep holding like a rope woven of palm fibre, so that your holy people can show their holy strengths by bursting something very powerful. I want an even more cunning lure. God brings wine and a harp. Satan smiles a crooked half-smile. Those are not exactly what he had in mind. Then suddenly, as though a dry path appeared through the Red Sea, Satan saw the beauty of women and he began to dance. More. The hazy eyes, the fascination of a soft cheek, a cheekbone, a reddening lip, the glance that burns a man like a cumin seed on a hot fire brick. A young woman's light, coquettish, half walk, half run springs to Satan's eyes like a revelation of divine glory and a lifting of the veil. Some comment on the text. We created man and woman in the best physical and mental proportion, and then we reduced them to the lowest of the low. The garden beauty to which the angels bowed down after a time was dragged by the hair by Gabriel and led out. Why? Why was paradise lost? Why does a date palm lose its leaves in autumn? Why does every beautiful face grow in old age, wrinkled like the back of a Libyan lizard? Why does a full head of hair get bald? Why is the tall, straight figure that divided the ranks like a spear now bent almost double? The bright red anemone grows saffron. Lion strength weakens to nothing. The wrestler who could hold down anyone is led out with 2 people supporting him, their shoulders under his arms. These are all messages from the fall. Whose fault was committed? God answers. The crime is that they put on borrowed robes and pretended they were theirs. I take the beautiful clothes back so that you will learn the robe of appearance is only a loan. The sheaf stack belongs to God. Human beings are gleaners, rays from the sun. The earth-coloured glass makes everything seem diverse, but that glass eventually shatters. Your lamp was lit from another lamp. All God wants is your gratitude for that. Lend is the divine command. Make God alone from your existence and see what fortunes accumulate. Diminish a little for your own sake, all this eating and drinking, and watch a new basin fill in front of you. Then God may say, Death, give back what you took. But you'll turn away. You won't want those things. Sufis throw away their wantings and their objects. They abandon pieces of clothing in the dance, and those articles are never returned. They are given to the singer or divided among the dancers. They rise from a briny, annihilating ocean into pure clarity. They confront the world openly with its arrogance and its hypocrisy. They are warriors for non-existence. The planter works with most joy, whose barn is completely empty. The planter who works for that which has not appeared. Second by second, I know you're expecting some sure understanding, some spiritual perception, some peace, but I am not allowed to say more about this mystery. Or else I would create a Baghdad in the wilds of the Georgia mountains, and there would be no more doubting. That's today's lesson, children. Now run along. There's nothing more to see here. Or is there? I don't think so. I might read again from that tomorrow. And I hope I haven't broken too much in the way of copyright by reading in my own voice some poetry of Rumi. Full acknowledgements to the authors and fair use and all that. Man. Gotta love a rainy night, don't you? I would have loved to have been out looking at the stars tonight. Pardon me. So much to do, and all I want to do is sit down and play guitar. I guess if I did that at midnight at this time of night, on the must be like 19th of September or something. Or maybe it's still the 18th, 2016. Two nines are 18, and 18 is 1 and 8, which is 9. So 2 nines is 1, 9. Sorta. It's got that 3, 6, 9, drink wine, the monkey juice, the popcorn, stick kind of line vibe to it. 3, 6, 9. But to get to 3, you gotta go 1, 2, 3, easy as A, B, C. 1, 2, 3, you and me. Okay, this video is finished. See you next time.